Hey guys, so here's a disassembly review, a disassembly guide for the KWA KZ75, KWA's new NS2 gas system based pistol. So here's the gun, pretty simple. It's the original 1975 design. So what you're going to need for disassembly is a small flathead screwdriver, a 2.5 millimeter Allen wrench. If you don't have one of these, you can use a 3/32 inch Allen wrench. That'll work too. You'll want some silicone oil, spray, and a rag, preferably cotton. This is just an undershirt. You know, it's got these ridges in it, makes it easy. So what you do, start by removing the mag, obviously. We'll set that aside. So you want to rack the gun. You'll notice here next to my thumb on the back of the slide there are two notches, one on the slide, one on the frame. You want to line them up. While they're lined up, you push out this little notch, which is the other side of the slide catch. So push it out, and then holding the slide in place with those two notches lined up using your finger, you just pull the slide catch out. After that, it's as simple as pulling off the slide. You can set the frame aside for the time being. We'll also set the slide catch aside. So what you want to do next is remove the return spring. So just push it forward and lift it up and out of the gun. Now, see something just went flying. This is a pretty long, reasonably low compression spring, so it has a tendency to kind of go everywhere when you pull it out of the gun. So just be aware of that. Hold on a second here while I get my, there we go, that went flying. So now, to remove the barrel, just push the back of the inner barrel assembly forward and up a little bit, because it's going to be caught on the locking lugs. Then you lift it up and out of the barrel. Go ahead and set that aside. Now, you've got the slide here. It is aluminum alloy. Now you're going to want to use the 2.5 millimeter Allen wrench. Just take this screw. The first time you do this is going to be pretty stiff. Don't worry about it. Just, you know, give it some torque and it'll come out. So as soon as we've got that out, alright, next is always the complicated part of pulling apart pulling a gas system out of a slide, especially with KWA's guns generally. So what you're going to need to do is take the end of the flathead screwdriver, and you're going to want to lightly pry in this little hole here. You pry kind of outward, and while you're doing that, you also need to push up and out of the end of the the gas nozzle. What that'll do is just slightly elevate that side of the gas system. It's rather hard to do. If you can't get it on that side, try it on the other side. There you go, now it's out. Once it's like that, you barely notice that it's up probably 0.5 millimeter. You need to then push from the back as well, and just slowly, if I can even do it, wiggle the gas system out of the slide. There we go. Takes a little finagling, you know, just be reasonably gentle. Once you've taken this out, be very cautious that you don't lose these bits in back. Take this off, and then you take this out. There's also a spring in there that'll generally stay in there, but just be cautious. Next, you're going to want to remove the springs that return the blowback piston. So very carefully, you're going to want to take the springs off of these pins in the back. Now, these are really sensitive springs. You can bend them, break them very easily. So be gentle. They're also kind of notched onto the pins when you first get them, so you kind of have to finagle it a little bit, and it's easy to break them, so just be careful. Once you've got them off, you can slide the piston off. What I suggest doing is roughly every maybe 2,000 rounds you clean up the blowback assembly. When you do so, you don't really need to take it apart any farther than this. It's just not necessary, unless you really feel like, going that far into it, which I sometimes will, but it's not always necessary. What you want to do is take your cotton rag and just rub out all of the inside surfaces around the seal, just anything that you can get your hands on. Clean it off, so that it's free of oil. You don't want any oil anywhere on it once you're done cleaning. The reason for this is that silicone oil oxidizes over time and will actually gum up your gun rather than lubricate it. So what you want to do is clean the oil out completely once in a while, and then you take the oil and redo it all. So what I generally suggest is just ever so slightly pushing on the top of your spray can for your oil. You don't want to be spraying oil. You want a couple of drops to come out. It's going to be hard for you to see this because it's dark inside the blowback piston, but just a tiny bit of oil on the inside of there. Also, if you look at the blowback piston here, it travels on these rails here, right along the metal frame of the NS2 blowback system. So what you're going to want to do is oil up those frames a little bit, those rails rather, to just give it a little bit smoother a slide. Very often people will complain about, my gas pistol's jammed up, I don't know what to do, blah blah blah. Half the time the problem is just that the blowback piston isn't really wanting to move freely. So if you keep this well oiled, it'll largely solve that problem. Next, you want to just give it a little oil in here. Anywhere where two parts move against each other, just make sure there's a very thin veneer of oil. Don't be too liberal with your oil. If you do, you're going to very quickly end up gumming up your gun, because what ends up happening is the more oil that's in there, when it oxidizes, it just turns into sludge and nothing will move. So just move it back and forth a little bit, make sure it's nice and lubricated. Then you're going to want to return the springs onto the pins. This can be a little bit tricky, but just be gentle and careful, and you shouldn't have any problems. There we go. So now you're going to want to return those two pieces, those small bits that we pulled out. The tapered end is what goes in. Make sure that the oval-shaped cutout, which you can see here, is in line with the hole running through the blowback assembly, because a screw ends up going through it. That Allen screw ends up going through there. So now you want to put this this cap on. There. Now don't let it go suddenly, because there is a spring in there. It'll just shoot it right back off. Now to get it back in the slide. Oh, I'm sorry. First you want to clean the slide. So the design of the KZ75 is nice, or similar with the CZ75, the real thing, because the rails on the slide are actually on the outside of the slide. So to clean the slide rails themselves is very simple. You just kind of take a pinch of clean cloth here and just run it through the rail, and you'll see some black, silicone oil come off. And do it on both sides. Just give it one or two passes, and then you want to just give it a light amount of oil. Nothing came out. There we go. Light amount of oil in both rails. Nothing crazy, or again, it's just going to gum up your entire gun. So now you can replace the blowback assembly. So in order to do that, you just lightly kind of move it all in at the same time. Don't put in the back first or the front first. Just kind of move it in smoothly and just push down until it kind of clicks into place. Once it's there, you're going to want to find that Allen screw, place that. Oh, I've screwed this up. So what I did wrong here, you'll notice that those two pieces that can fly off, they're on the outside of the slide. That's not where they want to be. So I'm going to need to open this back up. It's good when I make mistakes during making these videos because it shows you what not to do. So again, with the tricky opening of the blowback assembly, or removing rather. And if I can even get this out. Come on. There we go. So it comes up. Now, what I didn't do, if you look here, that little piece needs to be sitting, oh boy, in place, and you need to be able to make sure that the screw can get through. So sometimes what you might want to do is, before you even do anything else, push that piece into place, put the screw through, and then put that on. Just make sure the screw isn't sticking out the top, otherwise it's going to have a hard time getting into the slide. So now that I've got that right, click it into place and put the screw back in. Okay, so now your blowback assembly is oiled, your slide is oiled, your slide rails anyway. Anywhere where you see that the anodized black is coming off, see here it's two silver lines, you want to give it just a little bit of oil there because that indicates somewhere where metal is rubbing on metal. In this case it's the hammer that's actually rubbing there, but nonetheless give it a little bit of oil. Also here you'll notice silver, so give it some oil there, and also here and here. Alright, now you want to oil and clean the frame. This is a little bit trickier. You want to start by just cleaning off all the empty, all the bare surfaces, anything that you can easily clear off. Then, again, pinch a piece of cloth. You can see you're going to need to kind of finagle it this time. Just get it inside with the rails and run it along the rail. And the same with the other side. I don't really need to be thorough on this because I cleaned it before doing this video. But run it through both sides, make sure you get all the oil out. Then, same as the slide, put a little new oil in. Not too much, just enough to make sure that everything's going to be lubricated nicely. Again, check for any silver spots, anything where something is clearly going to be rubbing. Just give it a drop of oil, and then maybe just a couple drops of oil into the trigger assembly, just anywhere where you can spray it in just to keep things lubricated. So now, the barrel. Now the inner barrel, I haven't bothered working out how to take it out because it's not really something you need to do very often, because you can clean the inner barrel without taking it out of the outer barrel. If you don't know how to clean a barrel, maybe it's time to go back to Airsoft 101, because that's something you should be doing with all your guns on a regular basis. You take a barrel clearing rod with a piece of cotton, run through the end, twist it through, clean out your barrel. So now we're going to put the barrel back inside the slide. Now if you didn't see, my spring just fell off the table here, so we'll retrieve that. Now this can be a little bit frustrating. Put the spring guide back in the spring, put the loose end of the spring in the front of the slide, and now it's going to fight you to hell and back trying to get it back into the slide. So this is a real pain in the ass. Make sure that the barrel is situated all the way back towards the back of the slide so that you can actually do this. And you're just going to need to kind of use both hands, compress the spring as best you can, and sooner or later you'll get it in place. So just give the barrel kind of like a little bit of a push forward, make sure it's, everything's snapped in and good to go. Now put it back on, just line up the rails, slide it on, easy as pie. Line up those two notches again and simply push that back in. Now your hands are probably all covered in oil, so I'm sure you're going to want to take a nice clean cloth and wipe down your gun so that it doesn't look terrible. And when you're done, you should rack it a couple times just to move the oil around, make sure nothing's not working, and then snap in a mag and make sure it works. Thanks for watching.